for the invitation. Our great Creator, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for another opportunity to be of service to the great citizens of this great city of Florence. We ask that your presence will be known in this meeting, that you will lead us and guide us with your wisdom, with your knowledge, and with your foresight. We ask for a special comforting for all those who've lost loved ones, regardless to the situation. We ask that you will comfort them and strengthen them. And I ask that you clear our hearts and our minds, that we will be open to do what is right for this city as a whole. And you are welcome into this meeting this day. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we have approval of minutes. We have minutes from September 13, 2021, regular meeting. Okay, we have
Second.
a motion and a second. If you're ready for the question, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Minutes from September 13, 2021 has been approved. Next, we have the minutes from September the 21st, 2021, special meeting. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? Second. It's been properly motion and second. If you're ready for the question, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Let the rest reflect, minutes have been approved. Next, we have a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing now. It's a public hearing that will be held to receive input regarding the adoption of a development agreement between the city of Florence and the developers of the Bluff at Mill Creek and zone RG-3, residential general -3, pending annexation, 106 acres located at Redbud Lane and House Spring Road, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel Number 00152-01-021. And at this time, I believe we have Mr. Ryan Harvey who wishes to speak.
Mayor, this is the second of two public hearings that is required to be held per the legislation of the Development Agreement Act. And the first public hearing was held at last month's Planning Commission, and we will discuss the development agreement itself later on in the agenda.
Thank you. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Harvey.
Hey, thank you for having me today. I am the civil engineer designing the site. We're out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Just wanted to give you a little background information on what we're going to be doing here. On average, we're thinking there's going to be 230 homes built in this area. We're going to have access to 2 DOT roads, East Howell Springs and Redbud Lake. We are in the process of doing a traffic study with the schools and everything in the vicinity to make sure we're going to address the needs that DOT has of their roadways. We're coming in at R3 if everybody's okay with that. And we're just going to annex it to the city after we get everything designed and built. And we'll enter into an agreement to give the city the roads and the utilities. There's going to be about 4 ponds, each one of them averaging about 2.5 acres. It's going to have a nice layout. I don't know if you guys have been able to see anything about it or not, but we got a little smaller plan here, which is probably gonna be hard for you guys to see. This is our conceptual layout. But we'll be coming back in the planning commission for a sketch plan review if everything goes well. Okay. Yeah. It's just conceptual, so this is kind of
Did you have
what
a
we're
question, Councilman?
thinking it's gonna be like.
This layout was included in the packets.
And Councilwoman Barnes has a question.
The price of the homes that you're intending on.
I'm just a civil engineer, but I would say probably on average of 200, 250. The lot, I imagine the home pads are gonna be 42 by 70 foot deep, 42 foot wide and 70 foot deep. Probably about a 1,700 square foot house, anywhere up to like 2,200, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Did any other council member have any questions for Mr. Harvey?
What's your timeline?
We're gonna do about 3 phases over about 5 years. Depending on how quickly they end up selling, you know, it could move quicker, but we're thinking around 5 years, 4 to 5 years. Total build out, dedication of the roads.
Any further questions? If not, Mr. Harvey, thank you so much for coming before us today.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. If there's no others to address the public hearing will now come to a close. Thank you. At this time, we have appearance before council, and I will be asking that each individual who appears before the council, please hold all comments to 5 to 10 minutes. So at this time, do we have Mr. Tim Hammond present? At this time, it appears as Mr. Hammond is not here. We did have Mr. John Harrington, who is planning to speak today, but he's called and said he will not be appearing before council today. At this time, we have Mrs. Clementine Elmore, Executive Director of Housing Authority, to come forward to provide an update on the Housing Authority.
Good afternoon, Mayor Irvin and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to share some information with you on the Housing Authority of Florence. You all should have received this handout. And this gives you an overview. Can you all understand me? Because I know the math is.
Yes.
Okay,
we
good.
can hear.
So I wanted to give you an update on the Housing Authority. It's been almost 5 years since I became the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Florence. We also manage 2 other housing authorities. We manage Chevron Housing Authority as well as Marlborough County. We also used to manage McCall, but now McCall is transferred under the Housing Authority of Florence. So we have over 1,000 public housing units that we own and manage. We also have over 1,000 vouchers, that is formerly known as the Section 8 vouchers, that we also own and manage. So now what I did when I came January 2017, I made a look at what was going on and how to rebrand the Housing Authority. Since I've been here, we have a new website. We also changed our logo, as you can see on our shirt and our blazers. Right here, the staff is here, the executive staff is here. We also have 3 of our board members of the 7 that are here today, Ms. Linda Williams, Ms. Elishawn Redden, and Ms. Rosa Mullins. So I thank them all for being here today. We also wanted to share with you all that we have the residents, we have come with numerous activities for our residents. Our residents now can pay online. They can pay even via phone. So if they do not have a computer, everybody, as you all know, has a cell phone. So you can call in and make your payments. But after being here for a couple of years, we realized that there's some things that need to be done. We have outgrown our current administrative building to the point that we are scattered between 3 or 4 different counties. And so the opportunity presented itself back in 2018 when the old Barlow building was vacated. And we had an opportunity to purchase that building. And so we did. We had to bid on that building, and we were the highest bidder on the building. But you know, as you know, it was a grocery store, so we had to do the renovations to make it an administrative building. We are currently 2 weeks away from moving into that building. And I am thankful for the staff and the community for just being there with us as we try to transition to the next phase of the Housing Authority of Florence. But one of our concerns right now is because we are moving, we're gonna have an empty building on Pine Street. And on Pine Street, that building cannot be disposed of, cannot be redeveloped unless we have the support from our mayor, Mayor Irvin, and the city council. And so today I am asking that you all really take a look at what we're trying to do. One of the things that is a concern is that we're moving out of the city of Florence because the new location is on West Carmetta Street. It's in the county and not within the city. But we have done different things to make sure that we still service our residents. And the way we're doing that, our property managers, now community managers, will still be in place. They will still be at the different properties that we own and the communities. So the residents do not have to worry. We also partner with PDRTA to put a bus stop at our new location. We also are going to give out additional bus passes for those that do not have able to come there because they do not have transportation. The other thing that we are doing is, again, the new website, give them the opportunity. They do not have to come into our offices to pay for their rent. They can do it online, or they can call it in and make that payment. But I can't do anything without your support. We are at an impasse right now. I met with Mayor Irvin, the city manager, the deputy city manager, but we have not been able to come to the conclusion that a letter of support is granted for the Housing Authority of Florence to dispose of that property. One of the plans that we had was to try to make that particular property on Pine Street more affordable housing. But we cannot do anything until we get that letter of support. And the letter of support will give us the needle to move into the direction of whether or not that is feasible. Right now, we don't know because we have to bring in a developer, which we are doing at this present time. We have asked for requests for proposals for a developer to come in to see what makes sense in that area, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's single family homes, or whatever it takes for us to bring more affordable housing to Florence. We don't have it. And one of my goals is to make sure that we have more affordable housing. We have 3 vacant lands that we own right now. One is Fairfield Circle, Pine Street, and behind McGowan Commons and not Pine Street, but J.O. Smith. And those 3 areas that the developer is going to look at to see what makes sense. But in the meantime, we can't even move forward with that without the letter of support. The letter of support is merely just saying, we can sell the property. We can develop the property. And right now we don't have that. So what's going to happen if that letter of support is not given to us? That building is going to be vacated. And you all know what happens when the building is vacated. You know, it runs down. It's going to bring the community down. And we don't want that. Any property that we own, we want to make sure that it has a certain standard. And as long as we do not receive that letter of support, that's what's going to happen. It's going to go down and it will bring the community down. So I'm urging the mayor and the city council members to please provide us a letter of support so we can move forward with bringing more affordable housing to the city of Florence. Thank you.
Do any council member have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Which one? Who? Councilman Call?
Yeah. I don't think, can the city council give a letter of support? Or is it just the mayor?
The mayor and the city together can do it. But it has to come from the mayor. According to our regulations, the mayor has to give us a letter of support to sell. And I think that's the confusion. It's just to sell the property. Redevelop, because right now, currently, we cannot redevelop or anything unless we have a letter of support to dispose. It's called disposition. And HUD is very clear on what that is. And so we just have to make sure that that happens.
So I'll make sure, but there's nothing that, so I don't think I can go on the letterhead and put my name on it and say, I can't do that, right? I don't, so it would have to be just the mayor. Is that correct, Scotty?
That is correct, sir. It has to be the chief elected official, which is our mayor.
Yeah.
Chair
So, I mean, as
recognizes.
much as I think that's outside of my jurisdiction. That's why I don't know what's the impasse between housing authority and the chief elected official, but
providing a plan, which I did, and you all have a copy of the plan. That's the furthest we can go until we receive the letter of support. Once we receive that letter of support, the developer will come back and say, we can do X, we can do Y, we can do Z. And that's when you get more details. But until then, there's no need for us to send a developer to develop the property until we have the letter of support. We cannot get the letter of support after the fact. It has to be before. And if not, what's going to happen is the community on Pine Street, that particular area, of course, we're going to do what we can by going by there Monday through Thursday to make sure that the particular property, keeps up. But when you're not in a building, no matter how many times you go by, you're not there 24/7. Yes, we're going to have the cameras, etc., but there's no way we can move forward without the letter of support.
At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Moore, and after Councilwoman Moore, we recognize Councilman Braddock.
Do you have a tentative buyer already for that property?
No, we do not. A year and a half ago, we had some folks, but we have not reached out to anybody since then because of the fact that we have not received a letter of support. So we haven't reached out to anyone in the last year and a half.
Okay, you said a year and a half ago. All right. At this time, you finished, Councilwoman?
Do you think it would be easier to get the letter of support if we had a tentative buyer?
I don't know. We have to ask, the mayor, because one of the questions that she asked was that we give her a plan. And so that's what I did. So I don't know if that would matter or not, but I think the issue is not that, because why should it matter who purchased the property? One of the things that we mentioned in the plan is that we wanted the property to be purchased by a nonprofit or develop the property for affordable housing. Those were the two options. So I cannot name someone, even if you have a potential buyer, that doesn't mean that potential buyer is going to purchase the property. Anyone can say, yes, I'm interested in this, but until you go to the closing and they agree and give you a deposit, there's no guarantee if you have a potential buyer. And I'm not naming folks because we just talked to them. But no one said definitively, okay, yes, we are going to buy that particular property. But that would not be fair for me to say that.
Chair recognizes Councilman Braddock.
First of all, I want to say thank you very much for what y'all do for people looking for affordable housing and working with the House of Hope. That is one of the number one causes of homelessness is affordable housing. And so we worked with y'all several times, great VA program, the voucher program, very grateful. And, and the housing is real nice housing. That's another thing that I appreciate. A lot of the new developments have been very nice. And so thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the Housing Authority of Florence. I've been a huge blessing. I guess one thing I'd like to ask, is there any possibility of you annexing your new facility into the city? We'd love to have you back in the city.
Yes, matter of fact, we have the application. And that's exactly what because we love the partnership that we do have with the city. So that is the first thing on our agenda once we receive the letter of support.
Well, I look forward to having you back in the city, and I just want to say, thank you very much for what you're doing. And definitely that area of Pine Street, you have the Manor House, you have PD Cap, there's a lot of needs there. They do the Saturday morning at Hope Health, they do the feeding and things like that. So, hopefully that can be used for some affordable housing in that area. It's very much needed. So thank you very much.
And that's our number one priority to make that affordable housing.
Is there?
So my question to you, you said you had a buyer a year and a half ago. Did you meet with the buyer, Mayor?
No, I did not say we had a buyer. Someone said that we had someone that was interested, a tentative buyer, and I said, yes, we were told that there was a few people that were interested. That was it. That does not mean that they were a buyer. They were interested.
Did you meet with the
we did not
mayor?
talk to them.
At that time period, did you meet with the mayor, the city manager at that time?
Yes, I met with them back in January 2019, and at that time, I explained it was Mayor Wakila, Scotty Davis, and Drew Griffith. And I explained to them what we were doing at that time. And during that time, the mayor had questions about the location. And I answered those questions during that meeting, and our board chair at the time, Linda McColt, was there as well. And at that time, at the end of the meeting, he said, okay, after you answered all my questions, I agree. But last year, when it was time for us to get that letter of support, which is on the timeline that you all have in your hand, during that time, he refused to sign the letter of support. And so we had to wait until the new mayor was elected, which is you, and to come back and ask for your letter of support.
Why did he refuse to sign?
I'm not really clear what I understand because I never spoke to him myself. And this is two-party information. So I don't want to say, but maybe perhaps Scotty Davis, you can respond to that because I did not talk to him the second time when he refused to sign.
Scotty, were you present in that meeting?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay, to your understanding, why was the letter not signed?
Well, the meeting was initiated by myself to inform the city. I found out about the move. I thought the city needed to be informed of that move and asked for a meeting together. Both the mayor and the city manager was not in favor of the move. The move took place anyway. We asked, Ms. Elmore asked for a letter. The mayor refused to sign the letter of support, saying he didn't support the move, so he would not sign the letter saying he supported the move.
And that was last October 2020. November 2020.
Thank
Maybe I
Right,
can-
yes,
Thank you,
because the
Mr.
first
Davis.
meeting, he did approve it. January 2019, at that meeting, he had approved it. And then last October, when we came, because this is not about the move, this is about, and I think that's where the confusion is. This is not about the move, this is about us selling the current property. We never had to get approval from the mayor or anyone about moving. What we needed was a letter of support for the disposition, the sale of the current building, not the move. So it was never that the mayor needed to approve us moving. That we were talking about two different things. And I think that's where the confusion is. The move has absolutely nothing to do with the disposition of the move of our current building.
Well, Ms. Elmore, thank you, but even listening to where you're at now, we sat down and when we spoke, I asked you for a plan. And one of the things I asked you about, well, was there potential to put affordable housing there?
Yes,
So that was me asking you that. And so for me, what I stated then, just what you reverberated, we do not need a vacant property there on Pine Street when we are in the middle of redeveloping that catalytic area. I stated that when we met back in November, right after I took office. So the things you're saying now are the same things I requested of you then at that meeting. So when it comes to, and now you're saying it's only for the sale. So from our last conversation to this is actually shifted again. So what I would recommend for you, if you want to have a meeting with myself again, the city manager, and if you have someone that can actually give us clear verbiage from the housing authority, from the administration who's seeking this information, that would be better. Because listening to you now, I'm hearing differently from when we spoke before. And I will still say that prior to your move, my communication with the prior mayor is that the city, just as Mr. Davis stated, was not aware that y'all was planning on doing this move till he actually got the city connected with the leadership. And even at that time, when it connected, the city expressed the same concerns that we're expressing now, that for you to move to that building, to leave that one vacant, the questions came up about whether or not, why would you move from a population where a lot of your clients are living and you're moving to a building, transportation issues. We spoke about it because you and I spoke about the transportation with the PRT, which y'all did address. And I'll say unto you again, that you're stating tentative things I spoke with you about, not things that you projected. So if you want to set another meeting, have someone who can clearly define what the purpose is, because I will be honest, I will never support having a vacant building created in a community until you have a definite plan. So for me, as mayor, and I clearly state, you must have a concrete plan, because you have two options now. You possibly might sell it to a developer. You hopefully combine with a nonprofit. So the issue that I can say for myself and from my understanding from the previous administration, because I was on the council then, was there is no concrete plan for that site. And so with you coming here, we're thankful for your update, because I have this booklet that you gave me. But that this still does not change what we need from you. And if you want to sit down, have a meeting, and just as I said, have someone who can clearly define what is needed, we can go from there.
I respectfully would like to say that some of the things that you said was not true.
Which part do you not agree with?
I gave you a plan, and I told you then that we cannot give you a concrete plan until we receive a letter of support, because I cannot move with a developer to do any plans for that building until I
City manager.
receive a letter of support. I have met with you on 2 occasions. No one else on the staff can explain it better than me. And I have explained it 2 or 3 times. HUD has been trying to reach you to explain what we can and cannot do. My hands are tied. I can give you one once we receive a letter of support. Now with our regulations, we cannot move forward with a concrete plan. That's why I gave you the plan the way it is with the 2 options. And I, more than anybody else, do not want that building to go vacant. Regardless, we are moving in 2 weeks. The building will be vacant. So in 2 weeks, we're moving and that building will be vacant. And the longer it takes for us to get a letter of support, or even if we don't ever get a letter of support, that building will be vacant. And so what I'm asking respectfully, Mayor Irvin, is to, if you need to want to talk to her about it, I will make sure that happens. Because other than that, my staff cannot give you no more than what I already gave you.
Well, let me get a point of clarification. City manager was in that meeting. Is anything that I stated incorrect? So everything I said was correct and correct to what we did in that meeting, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that is, because we have our notes and minutes.
But
Has
you
any,
said I didn't
has,
give you a
one
plan,
moment.
ma'am.
What, just as I stated, that is tentative, that's not a plan. For us as a city, that's not a plan. City manager,
Can I say something?
yes, sir.
Somewhere you began your talk this afternoon, talking about the housing authority is pursuing an RFP to determine potential uses for not just that location, but others. Did I understand that correctly?
That is correct,
All
yeah.
right, well, that, in my opinion, I'm definitely not speaking for the mayor or any member of city council, but I believe if you are currently pursuing that RFP, that information that would be obtained from that RFP would be key on formulating the long-term, I won't call them concrete plans, but a long-term plan for that facility versus an ideal of we're going to sell it on fair market value. I think it's, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like we're on this right path to get to where we want to be. But I think that I think that RFP would be crucial, that whatever comes from that study.
And the RFP is not just the 3. We have the 3 properties that I mentioned, but they're only going to be able to do the 2 because we don't have a letter of support for the 400 East Pine Street. It's on the development, the RFP, the proposal, to give us ideas for those 3 and to develop them. And so what it does is, once we got the letter of support, they can move forward with what they need to do to develop Pine Street. Otherwise, they're gonna go do 2. There's 3 options on the request for proposal. And those are the 3 properties. We had to put it in there because what we didn't want to do is put two and then say, oh, okay, let's add this one too. So we went ahead and put all three properties that we want to develop. But it's very clear that they told us, HUD told us, we can't move forward until we get the letter of support. So the developer will be doing the development for the other two properties until that happens. That is the problem right now, where we're facing. We're doing everything we can. I am being as transparent as possible. And I believe I have been in every meeting that I've attended with you all, telling you all what we need, but I still think it goes back to the move, which we did not have to have approval for. And I think that's where it goes back to. The move was not the point where we needed approval from the mayor or the city. The only thing we needed approval was to dispose of the property. And everybody keeps going back to, we didn't get approval to move. We was not supposed to get approval to move. We did it as a courtesy to let you all know we were moving. It was a courtesy. It was not that we had to get approval. So it wasn't that, well, you all don't support it, so because you don't support it, let's not move. It didn't make any sense for us to stay where we are. I just mentioned that we are 5, 6 different places. And this property will bring us all together so we can service our residents. That's why we're here, to serve our residents. Our residents don't come to the administrative building. You know who comes to the administrative building? People that are looking for housing. Our current residents, they come to the properties that they live at. And they get service from our community managers. And even if they do need to come, we were doing everything in our power to make sure that they have access to us. It's not about leaving the community. It's about bringing the community together and trying to make the best community we can for our residents and participants.
Excuse me, Ms. Elmore, I asked that we kind of limit our time. We are well beyond that time period now.
Okay, thank you.
And that, we appreciate you being there, and there will not be a resolution at this time. What I will request is that you proceed to, let's make a meeting. We will sit down again so we can get points of clarification, because this can only be resolved through your administration and myself and our city leadership. And just as I sat down with you at other times to communicate, I will continue to do so, because we do want this to be resolved, but we have to resolve it, that we're sure that what we're doing is correct for the citizens of Florence, especially the citizens of the East Florence area. So it's only going to be through communication that this will be resolved. We will not make any rush decisions until we are assured that we are making the best decision for the citizens. So thank you for being here today. And please do, let's schedule another time period that we're welcome to sit down with you. But we will only move when we're sure that we're doing what's best for the citizens. But we thank you for being before us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. And this time, that concludes our appearances before council. Next, we are moving to ordinance in position. The first one is bill number 2021-30 for a second reading. That ordinance reads as follows. It's an ordinance to authorize the execution and delivery of a lease agreement in an amount not to exceed $3 million for lighting and various other equipment at the athletic complex. We have a motion and a second. If you're ready for the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect the bill has passed. The next bill we have is for a second reading. It's an ordinance to rezone 3 parcels located at 900 Oakland Avenue and 607 Maxwell Street, specifically identified as Florence County Tax Map number 9114-13-001 and 90114-13-002 and 90114-13-013. And you may be reminded, this is a bill which is requesting rezoning, which is the upzoning for the area.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? So we have a motion in a second. We're now here from Mr. Dudley.
Thank you. I believe the council is familiar with this rezoning request. I did want to make a note that since the last request, that the applicant has come back and put some restrictive covenants in place upon this property, which will be recorded prior to the rezoning taking effect, or that would be contingent upon it. The conditions of that would be that there shall be no private clubs on the premise. They've also put that the property owner is prohibited from selling alcohol for on-site consumption. And they've also added the prohibition of any vape shop or tobacco shop on the premises as well. And this went through planning commission, so it would be able to be enforced by the city under our unified development ordinance, and planning commission has approved this. So.
Do anyone have any questions? If not, if you're ready for the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you, Mr. Dudley. Let the record reflect that bill number 2021-31 has passed second reading. Next, we're entering into introduction of ordinance. Our first bill is bill number 2021-12 for first reading. It's an ordinance to annex and zone portions of Lake Oakdale and Lake Oakdale Dam identified in portion number of the Florence County tax map parcel number 00751-01-049. And you may note that it's requested by the applicant that this be deferred, so it will be deferred.
Can we table this? Because they keep.
Legally, we can't. So legally, we know we cannot at this time. There are special conditioning, but we cannot. We can't table it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we discussed it prior to, we're working on it. Next, we have bill number 2021-33 for first reading, an ordinance to enter into a development agreement between the city of Florence and the developer of the Bluffs at Mill Creek and zone RG-3 residential general 3 pending annexation, 106 acres located at Red Bud and Rabbit Bud Lane and House Spring Road, identified as Florence County tax map parcel number 00152-01-021, and authorizing the city manager to execute all document associated therewith. Okay,
So moved.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. This time we're here from Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is for the development agreement of the property, again, located adjacent to Red Bud and House Springs. It is approximately 106 acres. I'll try to pull this up. On the screen is the location of the property. This is, for most of us, this is across Red Bud Lane from our existing fire station on Red Bud Lane. And this is the proposed development. It is, again, approximately 236 residential lots. There is no commercial use affiliated with this. And again, this is just for the development agreement. And what a development agreement essentially does is it locks in all of the development standards for that developer at this current time. So if council chooses, once this development agreement is signed, it will establish their zoning and what they can do with the property. And if we change our regulations in a year from now, it does not affect their development with this. But it also requires that they then zone in or annex the property in when they do develop the property. We have completed 2 development agreements prior to this, which is the Grove and Alligator West. And that is, for the most part, what the development agreement does. We will work with them on city water and sewer. Water is currently available to the site, and we are currently working with the developer to establish what the best connection to the sewer system is.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Moore? If not, are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any like signs? Let it reflect that bill number 2021-33 has passed first reading. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Next, we have bill number 2021-34 for a first reading. It's an ordinance to rezone 257 North Court Street from UR Urban Residential to DS Destination / Selected Use identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel Number 90073-5-005. And we will hear from Mr. Dudley on this. Do we have a motion? And a second. So motion and second. Mr. Dudley, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This property is located on the corner of North Court Street and West Darlington Street. As you can see in the map here, it is developed, it has been developed for some time. It was most recently occupied by Missy's Cafe and Jack's Seafood on this corner. The current zoning is residential urban. During the transfer over from the old zoning code to the Unified Development Ordinance, it was picked up with the larger residential urban zoning despite its developed character. We believe this was mistakenly done at that time. It should have been looped in with the destination services zoning, which is in the brown there, as opposed to the orange, which the rest of the block, except for a few lots that were developed actually as a residential use through there. So, and the future land use map did have it as residential urban, despite its developed character. These maps were adopted 11 years ago and don't necessarily reflect the actual developed use of the property, but it was, for future land use. The uses of the property under residential urban limited to multifamily uses, primarily in support of downtown, as well as some duplex and townhome style development. The destination services is more of a commercial zoning designation. It allows a large variety of commercial uses on that site. The previous zoning of the site prior to the adoption of the Unified Development Ordinance was B3, general commercial, which is essentially like the commercial general district now. So destination services is, I guess, a little notch lower than the general commercial district in this case, but it allows many of the same uses. Here are a few pictures of the site that shows the developed site. The building is going to have some renovations to it if the zoning is approved. It is on the design review board docket for this Wednesday. They are planning to do some brick facade work to the building, as well as install some new windows on the building if they are approved. The planning commission did approve the rezoning unanimously, 6-0. And this concludes staff's report.
At this time, the chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Jerry, just real quickly, if I hear you correctly, the reason it was zoned as the residential is simply as an oversight.
I believe so. When we went through those maps, we tried to comb through everything as thoroughly as we could. They went out for public review. I know city council looked at them, but there are a lot of parcels in the city, and we're coming across those, as you can see, some that were inadvertently picked up in other districts, despite the developed use.
I understand. So this is one that just was an oversight. It slipped between the cracks. And so this is to correct it and really bring it back into what it should have been initially.
That's correct.
And this designation of destination select use is actually a more restrictive use than general commercial.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Moore.
Okay, with the designation select, I know it will be commercial use. What is not allowed there? Because we still don't want a private club or pool room Or
Well,
anything of that sort?
Private clubs are allowed in almost any zoning district, including residential. What protects private clubs in residential district is the definition of private clubs that allows it to not predominantly be a place to serve alcohol. So private clubs would be allowed whether it's residential, urban, or whether it's
Okay,
destination.
Okay,
service.
forget that. What will not be allowed?
Let me grab my zoning code real quick.
No, we didn't say that. We didn't say that.
You can probably recognize your rights.
The activity service or destination services, I'm sorry, it does not allow, let's see, animal boarding facilities or animal grooming facilities. It does not allow automobile sales or rental services, automobile repair, heavy or light. Does not allow nurseries. It does not allow fueling stations or car washes, truck stops or truck washes. It does not allow a restaurant with a drive-through. It does not allow mobile food vendors, tattoo facilities, a heavy retail or home center, wholesale. It doesn't allow any industrial uses or storage type uses. And it's very selective on obviously utility uses like wastewater plants and things of that nature. And it does not allow agricultural uses. And that's about it.
And do you know what they're planning to put there?
We have received word that when the applicant came in that he did want to put a tobacco store there.
He wants to put what?
A
vape
store
shop?
to, I'm not sure if it's a vape, he described it as a tobacco shop.
Tobacco, vape, CBD? I mean, no.
We didn't receive an official application because it wasn't zoned properly. So we're not sure of the extent of the use.
Is that pretty much is residential? And we don't want the vape shop on Max on Oakland and Maxwell. Why would I want it on Coit and Darlington? It's still residential in a residential area. Those apartments are right across the street, Coit Village.
Do we have any other questions? And I do want to recognize the fact that with the, that particular location, there's a home right behind there, correct? So there's a residential,
There is a residential house right behind it, yes, along Darlington Street, yes, ma'am.
and you say that the planning commission passed this unanimously?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other discussions, questions?
I do.
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
And maybe I missed it. I thought this was about to go through, but maybe I missed it. If they cannot rezone it, if they don't want to, they cannot put a tobacco store there. As its current zoning, what would they have to put there? I think I missed that part. I know, like for the previous one on Oakland Avenue, the one I just passed, that was neighborhood reuse, right?
It was neighborhood conservation and they're on Oakland Avenue, they're proposing to go to commercial reuse there.
Okay. So I know
That one would also allow a tobacco shop.
Yeah, I know, but so I know if they would have knocked down that store, they would have had to put up a house, right? Or
That's correct, a residential.
all right, so if they knock down this property, added current zoning, what do they have to put up? Is it
Housing.
a housing?
Yeah.
Okay. Has the developer mentioned anything about put up in houses or anything like that? Only to,
No.
so again, if we do this again, then this store will be vacant until someone decides to buy it and put a house there, right?
That's correct. The only uses that would be allowed in urban residential would include assisted living, nursing homes, and as well as a medley of your, single family detached, all the way up, the whole gamut pretty much of housing types.
Okay, so the problem is, I think we're admitting that it was an oversight right? So now it's gonna be a bunch of applicants that's gonna come up who trying to do improvements to their properties. And because it was an oversight, I guess, in 11 years ago, each time they come up, we're gonna do the same thing. What they plan to put there? What, and it's gonna keep doing the exact same thing over and over. And we're gonna have more and more dilapidated vacant properties across the city. If we keep doing this on every time someone is trying to rezone their property off of what we've already admitted was an oversight.
So I want to get clarification. What is the present zoning if it was operated as a restaurant each time before then? So this occurrence with the change occurred while those restaurants was operating, correct? So at this time, are they outside of the phase that if I wanted to put a restaurant there, can you still not put a restaurant there? What, right now, with the situation what we have, can they not continue to utilize it based on the fact that it was operated before as a restaurant? I just want to be clear that we're all clear.
I believe any business has ceased to operate there for longer than 6 months, so they've lost all, grandfathering essentially to run a business out of there. It would revert back to residential use.
And so I know the previous business occupant, they actually relocated because they was tentatively planning to sell that building, correct? So she vacated because they wanted to sell the building. So evidently now the sale has went through.
I'm assuming, I'm not sure if there's a contingent sale or if someone has purchased the property. The applicant was the owner, though. I'm not sure if they were the new owner or a previous owner.
So in clarification, in the future, if you got a property that's already zoned, if you go and sell it, it stays vacant for 6 months, whatever you was grandfathered in for no longer exists. That's correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I think we got two council members who don't want to be recognized. I believe I know Councilwoman Moore and then Councilman Braddock, correct? Then Councilman McCall.
But you went,
Yeah, I recognize you had the floor. You gave the floor. I took the floor. Now I'm passing it to the council members in the orders. Councilwoman Moore, Councilman Braddock, then Councilman McCall.
but you arguing against me and then going to.
Councilman
them.
McCall, you're out of order.
I mean,
Chair
I always
recognizes
respond to you.
Councilwoman Moore.
Okay. I'm really commenting on someone what Councilman McCall said, as well as why is it when something comes available in a minority neighborhood, it always has to be a tobacco shop, a vape shop, a CBD shop? Why? Why does that have to be in the neighborhoods that we live in mostly? Why are you gonna dump everything in a minority neighborhoods? I'm not voting for that. They want to do a tobacco store. So everybody can just walk over there and get vape products and tobacco, cigarettes and that. No, why would they want to do that? Where do they live? Where does the applicant live?
I'm not sure.
What's on his application, his address on his application?
I'd have to check. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Where-
well,
what
you
is it?
check, you call him and tell him to put that in his neighborhood, not in mine.
Chair recognizes Councilman Braddock.
Well, can you pull up the screen that showed the residential lots? Because I go down Darlington every day and how many of those houses are actually inhabited? One of them has a tree through the front of it. Are any of them currently occupied?
I'm not sure. I know at least one of them is. The one behind it, I believe I've seen activity there, but I'm not sure about the others.
I have a hard time believing, to the right where you have the apartments, that's residential, but there's hardly anything residential down Darlington Street. I mean, you got a beer plant, you got a steel plant, you got a ladder plant, you got a hubcap store across the street. I mean, that doesn't seem to be a neighborhood.
Councilman Braddock has the floor.
I have a problem with us saying that's a residential area. And outside of those 4 houses, that 2 or 3 of them are in extreme disrepair. I can't imagine anybody be living there.
I know I'm out of order, but I'm gonna say anyway, I have a Point Village is directly across the street.
Councilwoman, please. I'm gonna ask each council member, please respect each other Everyone will be afforded the opportunity to speak. Please make a note, and after each council person has had the opportunity to speak, I promise you I will recognize you to respond. Thank you. Councilman Braddock, has that concluded your?
Yes, sir.
At this time, Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
Again, I agree with you, Pat, on that. I agree. What's coming into the neighborhoods are, we're tired of seeing liquor stores and tobacco stores, and I get that. But the city made an error. We already have admitted that. The city made an error in the rezoning. So that means it's going to be hundreds of applications that come through here, and we're going to say, no, because the city made an error. Now we're going to pretty much tell this person, you have to now change your house residential. And let's be honest, no one is going to put a house on that corner. Look at the houses behind it. Look what's across the street, the caps, nobody's going to put a house right. As a developer, I'm not going to buy that piece of property and put a house there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this lot vacant, and people are going to drive through this road and see dilapidated house, a dilapidated property. And if we're serious about trying to make our city look a lot better, let's stop playing around with these vacant properties and allow people to develop. And I agree with you though. We don't want that type of activity here, but I think we made a mistake, and we keep allowing this thing to keep going on and on and on. It's become more of a problem. And every applicant that comes up, people say, oh, what do you want to do with it? And we have to have the same discussion 200 times. And I think we need to find a way to rectify it so we're not constantly having the same exact zoning problem every month. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Councilman Carl. At this time, Chair recognizes Councilman Moore, and after Councilman Moore.
Okay,
Mayor
the
Pro Tem.
city, we've been doing affordable housing for a while. That's a piece of property maybe we could purchase and put a house there. For first-time home buyer. I mean, just to put all these things in the community that we don't need, is detrimental to the community. That's not helping. I don't care how many people come back again and say, okay, we made a mistake. We're doing affordable housing, first-time home buyers. We could make that one of our projects.
Mayor Pro Tem, will you pass it to the city manager?
Of course.
City manager.
Can I just make a statement here? I'm coming to the defense of staff. Please understand, with all due respect, that staff is just presenting information that has been requested by an applicant. The city is not developing, the city is not trying to redevelop this parcel or turn it into something. We don't own it. We have no plans to own it. We are simply presenting the facts of an application. And I get a little concerned when my staff member starts being, for lack of a better term, treated as a defendant. So please remember, we're only here presenting information that's not our property. And we can only present the facts that we have. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Thank you. It's my understanding, Jerry, that on Court Street where this property is located, next door is what used to be the Safeway gas station. I guess it's I don't know what kind of gas station it's right now. But
That's correct.
but it's a convenience store kind of place.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that's directly across from the street from Coit Village Apartments, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and inside that current convenience store, they can sell tobacco and any kind of tobacco product they want. Alcohol is sold there, beer is sold there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so what we're talking about is immediately next door to this property. There's current activities going on where there's alcohol sales, there's tobacco sales, all of that is currently taking place as of today.
That's correct.
Okay. And around the corner on Darlington, and if I'm not mistaken, on the corner of Darlington and Irby is another gas station convenience store, correct?
That's correct.
And that's right next to, actually, that one is right next to the bus transfer station, correct?
Correct.
And at that store, which is again adjacent to Coit Village Apartments, you've got beer sales, tobacco sales, all of that takes place in that convenience store.
That's correct.
So the current Coit Village Apartments that are there, when someone decides to move into that apartments. They move in knowing that they've got 2 convenience stores, one on either side of the apartment complex, both of which they're selling tobacco and alcohol products, correct?
Correct.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's current plans for another gas station type store on Darlington Street as well.
That's correct.
And so all of those are existing, all of those are approved by zoning that's currently in place, correct?
Correct.
What we're talking about here is someone who owns property, whether it's the current owner or a successive owner. And they purchased the property and it was their understanding, either they currently owned it and it was their understanding that when the zoning ordinance went into effect, that it was going to be commercial. But it turns out through some inadvertence, somewhere along the line, that it got located as residential. So we're not talking about a property that was residential and now somehow they're wanting to convert it to commercial. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's been commercial for a long time. I don't know how long, but certainly all of us who, and my office is right down the street on Court Street. So all of us know that that's been a commercial property. It's been a restaurant primarily for many, many years. And so as far as the current property owner is concerned, to now not comply with their request would in essence result in a taking, in that they would no longer have the same value in the property that they had as a commercial, and it would render the current building, which is uninhabitable. You can't live in the building as it currently exists, correct?
That's correct. You cannot live in it.
Okay, so it would absolutely render that building worthless for its current, and where you could neither live in it nor could you use it for commercial purposes. It would, by definition, if we don't do that, by definition, it would mandate that it become vacant, because it could not be used for a commercial purpose, nor could it be used for a residential purpose as it currently exists if we don't grant this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Barnes, following Councilwoman Barnes. Councilwoman Moore has the floor.
I think we can all agree that in our communities, we want our best. We want to protect our children. We want our children not to be exposed to alcohol and those things. However, when they are already there, my concern is, I can remember as a child in the 1970s, and Food Lion wanted to come down Irby Street close to Wilson Road. And I said this before, and the community got all upheaval, and you had politicians saying they putting that store there so that they could arrest the Black kids. Well, we lived in a food desert for years. The first light of day is the store that's coming downtown, all because we want partnerships on one hand to come into our community and give us support, but then on the other hand, we want to cherry pick it. I hear Pat's heart, and I know where she's coming from, because she does. We're tired of seeing what the blighted areas that we see. However, the dangerous thing that we are skating on is every time there is this thing that we're up against, we come and say, we ask everybody, first you tell us what you're gonna put in your business. That's where we're kind of on a slippery slope of approving and disapproving. And so if it is already commercial, if the other option is for it to be an eyesore, we need to take that into account. There's a beer store down the street, there's a vape store down the street, there's a alcohol across the street being sold. And so we're singling them out. If they were coming and that wasn't around them, it would be another discussion.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Moore.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. I don't mind it being commercial at all, not at all. But why does it have to be a tobacco store? Why are those, our neighborhoods chosen for those type products? Mayor Pro Tem already said, right next door and then down the block. Okay, isn't that enough? We're selling tobacco and vape products right there. So they can't think of anything else to put there. It was a restaurant, put it back as a restaurant. But why does it have to be something that's detrimental and harmful for our community? That's what I'm saying. I'm not against it being commercial, but I'm against what they're putting there. And I would be against anything that's gonna be detrimental to the community, not just that community, any community. If you already have it there surrounding you, why do you need more? There's so many positive things that could be there.
At this time, our full board recognizes Pro Tem.
Yes. Mr. Dudley, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, in my deepest of hearts, I mean, you know, if I could wave a magic wand, I would not want it to be a tobacco store. I would not want it to be a liquor store. I mean, all of these uses are, you know, things that we see in marginal areas to some degree. You know, there's different scales, there's different qualities, there's different types of all development, you know, and it happens all over the city where I see uses that I don't particularly like that end up in those places. But, you know, with the way the zoning code is, it completely prohibits the use of that property. And, you know, and we can't control every aspect of what goes in there. So, but I do want you to know that it's not my preferred use either, but it's what came to us, so.
Chair, Pro Tem.
Thank you. So as I recall, there's an overlay district that's on top of this intersection. And is this general commercial overlay district? Is that part of our downtown business district?
It is. It's part of the D1 district, I believe, the downtown redevelopment.
And as a part of it, it's part of the general business district, correct?
No, it's not part of the CBD, the central business district. It is not part of that zoning designation.
But you've got, is Irby Street, I mean, is Darlington Street 4 lanes or 5 lanes at that point? With the median?
4 lanes.
Okay, so you got a 4-lane through road on Darlington Street right there. Court Street is from Darlington on over towards Palmetto is very commercial as well. So this area that we're referring to is while it borders on West Florence to further to the west and to the north, this area itself is not in a neighborhood, so to speak, is it?
It is not.
Okay.
It's bordering.
So, and to treat this property differently because it was inadvertently done where, and listen, I am not a smoker. I'm not a vapor. I'm not a fan of all of that either. And certainly I liked it when it was restaurants. I used to frequent there as a customer when it was restaurants, and my preferred choice is that it become a restaurant again. But I don't think it is city council's job to tell a business owner, any business owner, what they can or cannot do within permitted uses of a property. And I think that's the problem we're having. While I think we all agree, none of us would like to see it be a tobacco or alcohol related sales of their facility. I do think we have a responsibility to know that it's not our job to tell each business owner what they should or should not do with their business. And so that's the concern I have is us trying to tell each business owner what they should or should not do or can or can't do. And in this case, by inadvertence, had it been noted correctly as a commercial property, it would not be before council currently, would it?
No, sir.
Right. So the only reason it's here is because it was not noted as a commercial property to begin with. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so in summary, Mr. Dudley, basically, we have a property that in the process of rezoning was rezoned from a level of general type commercial. But it ended up because of the rhythm of the mapping system, it picked it up and placed it in a residential. Because in summary, that area prior to a lot of transition was residential. Actually, my grandmother lived 2 homes down there. That home is not there anymore, so I know the area. So it inadvertently was rezoned to this residential. If they would have kept the present business open, sold it within 6 months, they could have kept doing what they were doing. And they could have placed a tobacco shop or anything else there within that 6-month time period, correct?
That's correct. If they had kept it in commercial use.
Right, but since that 6-month time period is now elapsed, they're coming back and asking to get their zoning back. But it's really be a lesser zoning, but they still want to have that ability to do commercial rather than residential.
That's correct.
So we're simply correcting something that was zoned differently and trying to get back. And we do not have any authority over what they place it under as long as they're placing it within this zoning, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, Council, that's the summary of where we're at. What I would ask, those, since we know there are a couple of things like this in place that has occurred, that let's review our zoning so we can be proactive and see what properties we can pick up now and see where this zoning mishap occurs, so we can start correcting them. Because I know we've had some over on Oakland Avenue that we're supposed to look at. So I would just ask the staff if we just go ahead and start that process so we can review ahead of time, so we won't have to come back for the same, issues again. Do we have any other questions, any other statements? If not, if you're ready for the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay.
No.
All right, this let the minutes reflect that this bill number 2021-34 has passed. And next we have, it will be Mr. Jerry again, we will have bill number 2021-35 for first reading. An ordinance to rezone 803 Cherokee Road and 806 Cherokee Road and 812 Cherokee Road and 810 Congaree Road from NC 6.1 to NC 6.3, identified as Florence County tax map parcel number 9004-11-006, 90064-11-007, 90064-11-013, and 90064-11-0112. Do we have a motion?
Oh,
Do we have a second?
second.
It's proper motion is second. We're here from Mr. Dudley. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. This property is located along Cherokee, Congaree, and Linwood, primarily along Cherokee Road. There are 4 parcels involved. This shows the specific location, and this is very similar to the previous case, or somewhat similar. All of these properties were previously zoned R5 multifamily under the old zoning ordinance. And when they were converted to the Unified Development Code, they were converted to an NC 6.1 district, which is a single family small lot district. Most of the development interior to the neighborhood here along Cherokee is developed as single family. There are a few maybe duplexes that occurred years ago and exist in the neighborhood, but most of it is predominantly single family. But these 4 parcels were actually developed and or being used as multifamily. At 802 Cherokee, which is the one on the corner of Cherokee and Linwood, it has very much a single family appearance to it, but there is a detached apartment there to the left in the picture that you can see. So it is operating as multifamily. 806 Cherokee is a duplex. You can see in the entrance there, there's 2 entrances on the inside of the porch there. So it operates as a duplex. 812 Cherokee Road, again, looks multifamily. Single family, has a single family appearance, but it is apparently has been historically used as a multifamily structure on the interior of the structure. It's apparently broken up and used as that, and has historically been used for multifamily. And 810 Congaree Road is actually developed as a townhouse complex there. So it was brought to our attention a few months ago. We looked at some of the historic or the process of rezoning, and we do believe that this one was not picked up as multifamily when the conversion occurred. And again, this was put before planning commission, and then they did vote unanimously to recommend the parcels be rezoned from 6.1 to 6.3. And this concludes staff's report.
Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Ms. Dudley, just as before, it's my understanding that this is just a cleaning up of the zoning that had we been aware of this at the time, it would have been zoned the way you're recommending, or it's being recommended to be changed to zoning.
Yes, I believe if we had, when we were combing through things before, if we had caught this, we would have zoned it or 6.3 multifamily to be such that the uses there would be legal and could be continued. Yes.
And so, again, if we don't approve it somehow, then these people are going to be out of a place to live because their current townhomes, where I don't know, there's like 10 or 12 townhomes there. It's currently illegal under the current zoning as it currently exists. And the people are currently living there in that building, those buildings, but we need to change to conform to what's already there.
Right. They would, as long as it doesn't go vacant or the use doesn't cease to exist, then absolutely, yes. They could continue to live there, but if they cease to use that for that purpose, it would revert, yes.
But this is not a change to try to do something, some kind of spot zoning. It's just trying to make along the way, and as the mayor had recommended, to try to be proactive and identify those properties. And it looks like they're all over the city, because there's a lot of properties in the city.
That's correct. Yes, we're finding a few like this throughout the city as folks redevelop them or are doing zoning research of their own and find a few. So there may be more in the future as well. But we did thoroughly go through these maps the first time, but we're obviously there's a few areas here and there we made a few mistakes. Yes.
Okay, and this is just bringing it to conformity.
That's correct. Bringing it into conformity.
Any other questions or any other statements? And once again, this is just a format of placing the zoning on to an area that was already there. And even if it was not there, long in future properties, as long as that property is reutilized in 6 months, regardless of where it is in the city, it will retain the functionality of it, even if there's a different zoning because it's grandfathered in. So if at this time, there's no other questions, are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that bill number 2021-35 has passed. Next, we have bill number 2021-36 for first reading. And this reading does have the option of going into executive session. The bill number 2021-36 for first reading reads as follows. An ordinance utilizing authority found in codes number 23-31-220 and 23-31-520 of the South Carolina Code of Laws as amended to prohibit open carry of firearms at all events permitted by the city of Florence and to expand the current prohibition of concealable weapons on properties owned or operated by the city of Florence to include both concealed and open carry of concealable weapons by amending section number 14-20, 19-52, 19-53, 19-54, and 1957, and by adding Article 5 to Chapter 2 of the City Codes of Ordinance. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we go into executive session to obtain legal advice.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and second that we take this into executive session. And please note that this can be going, we have an executive session at the end of our meeting, which we have this listed, so we can do that at the executive session if there's no objection that we do it in our scheduled executive session.
I'm sorry.
If you look on the end of our agenda, we
Yes.
have a executive session to receive legal advice related to open carry. So we already have it on our executive plan. So if there's no objective, we
Do
can
both
do
at the
it.
same time.
We can do it both. We have it on there for
So
you.
you want to just wait on this
Yes.
one to the end? I
Right.
see what you're saying.
Okay, so if there's no objections, we will take this in executive session in our scheduled executive session. See no objection, we will take that to executive session at the end of our meeting. Next, we're going to introduction of resolution. First, we have resolution number 2021-35, a resolution expressing the council's willingness to grant a request by the town of Pantlico, release a portion of the city's designated water and sewer services area to all Pantlico to serve as residents, to serve the residents of the areas.
So move.
We have a
I move
motion
that
and a
we
second.
discuss in executive session.
If there are no objections, we can discuss this in executive session as listed at the bottom. Are there any objection to having that in executive session? But since there is none, we will proceed to have that in our executive session portion. Next, we have resolution number 2021-36, a resolution by the city of Florence proclaiming October as Bullying Prevention Month. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in, well, favor, I'll get you to read it because they should have had. All those in favor signify say by aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that resolution number 2021-36 has passed. I will ask that Councilman McCall read the resolution into record and please present it.
At this time, I would like to present resolution 2021-36, a resolution by the city of Florence recognizing October as National Bullying Prevention Month. Whereas bullying is physical, verbal, sexual, or emotional harm or intimidation intentionally directed at a person or a group of people. And whereas bullying occurs in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, and online through technology. And whereas researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence affecting millions of American children and adolescents annually. And whereas targets of bullying are at an increased risk of depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school, and students who are repeatedly bullied are often fear such activities are riding the bus, going to school, interacting online, and attending community activities. And whereas children who bully are at greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors, and whereas children who witness bullying often feel less safe, helpless to stop it, and intimidated. Now for be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Florence, the city recognizes October as National Bullying Prevention Month and encourages citizens to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make the community safer for all children and adolescents. Resolve this 11th day of October 2021. At this time, I'm gonna ask for Isaac Wilson to come forward so I can present this resolution. Got a few words.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Again, I'm Isaac Wilson, the owner of the Isaac Wilson Project. And what my company does is we fight bullying prevention throughout this country. The countless number of teenagers or adolescents that we've seen that have taken their own lives to suicide at the thought of facing this thing that we call bullying at school has risen in the past 2 or 3 years. And so we have to have a community to come together to be involved, all of us on this one particular topic. So if there's anything I can do community-wise or school-wise, be sure to hit me up by email, website, the Isaac Wilson Project.org. And so what I've done personally is I've written 2 bullying books, one for females, one for males, and one of which has sold over 16,000 copies around this country. So we've been doing the work and want to continue to do the work and want to partner with the city in order to make that happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Moore.
Isaac, I just want to say that I truly, really appreciate all the work you do around bullying. I remember when I was on the school board, we tried to start a bullying program and it didn't get far. But you picked it up and you carried that ball for us. And I really appreciate all that you do. Isaac Wilson Project is fantastic. And don't forget, I need 2 tickets. But thank you so much.
The council member? I would like to ask Councilwoman Moore just stated about an event. Do you want to share with the audience your event that you have coming out?
Yes, the evening of distinction will be on November the 12th at the SMIT building. This is an event that we started 5 years ago in recognizing people that are doing good work in our neighborhoods that don't often get the recognition. They're doing the work, but they haven't quite got the recognition they deserve. So we celebrate those people at this event. It's all sponsored by community businesses. So come out and help celebrate those people. Our mayor has been a part of it for a long time now, so I appreciate you. And Councilman McCall has been the support, and Schofield, Mr. Bailey. So all of these people actually that I'm seeing, they have supported this event. So come on out and help us celebrate these people that are doing awesome work in our community.
If there's no other comment from our council, I would simply say thank you for all that you're doing. And I believe that your activities is well worth this resolution. I hope that you can continue to save many more lives.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have resolution number 2021-37. It's a resolution by the city recognizing the second Saturday of July as the PD Youth Day. Do we have a motion?
So move.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. At this time, I will read the resolution into our records. A resolution by the city of Florence recognizing the third Saturday. And actually, that is going to be the second Saturday of July as PD Youth Day. Whereas children today face challenges, circumstances, and risks associated with drugs, alcohol, and tobacco use, juvenile crimes and delinquency, suicide, teen pregnancy, school dropout, domestic violence, sexual abuse, gang activity, bullying, broken families, and peer pressure. And whereas providing children with support and the very best opportunity to lead productive and fully living lives in a responsibility we all share. And whereas young people need stability, workable values, and good examples by which to live. And those who demonstrate good judgments and common sense help bring up order to all our lives. Without the guidelines of the delicacy and the civility, decency and civility, all nations and societies, the individuals that compromise them cannot survive. And whereas we all share a commitment to care for our children and can best do so by serving as living examples of integrity, honesty, tolerance, and understanding for our youth. And whereas it is fitting that we rededicate our efforts to maintain a society that emphasizes a way of life structured upon a wholesome and nurturing environment for all our children. And beneath all that troubles this world lies a moral crisis where old society values have been broken and new moral values have not replaced them. And whereas our greatest resources are our children, parents, officials, and residents of all the PD counties, and they can help make a difference with our commitment to reduce and eliminate drug use, abuse, crimes, violence, brutality, illiteracy, child abuse, and other social ills from the world by setting the example here in our state and our counties of the PD. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Florence, the City of Florence recognizes the the second Saturday of July to be the PD Youth Day. And this being resolved the 11th day of October 2021, approved by our city attorney, our mayor, and by our municipal clerk. At this time, I'm going to ask that Minister Hemingway please come forward. And I'm going to state that Mr. Hemingway's really, Reverend Hemingway, he has been dedicated to youth day for several years, as well as many community services. He's very well known for his services, especially in Marion County. And I'm so glad that he's decided to cross over and come in to help with Florence, the city of Florence. So thank you. And we're looking forward to the second Saturday of next year, when there will be the first annual youth day in the PD for the Florence County. Thank you. We move up from the state here and give them an update as well.
I'd like to say thank you to the mayor and city of Florence. We have been doing Marion County Youth Day for 15 years and wanted to come to Florence to help empower, educate, and help the children of the PD area. With the PD Youth Day, we plan to bring different areas of educational, health-wise. We have SLED on board that will educate our children. We want to empower our children that they are somebody regardless of race, creed, color, or denomination. No matter what social background you come from, you are somebody. So we ask that you work with us, that we can do a great job for our youth, and they need our help to make them somebody special in our future leaders of the PD area.
Thank you. And I would comment to Reverend Hemingway, I think that you and Isaac need to communicate with each other, because next year during July, I think it's gonna be a big event for the whole of Florence County. And this resolution does have the support of our various medical institutions here within the city, as well as support from the school district. So we are looking for next year, this time, to be a big event for all of Florence County. So please, you two gentlemen, connect with each other. Thank you. At this time, we will proceed to reports to council. First, we'll have appointments to our boards and our commissions. Scotty. Scott, I knew we kind of got you lost on what we're doing. You know, that's all right.
Madam Mayor, members of council, we have 5 boards that have vacancies or expired terms. We'll start with the Board of Zoning Appeals. There is 1 expired term. We actually seeking reappointment is Nathaniel Poston. We have a new applicant, Michael Tommy Phillips, and that appointment falls to Councilman McCall.
I had someone who said they submitted an application, but I don't see it in the packet. I think it was maybe an error where they submitted it to probably under the wrong name. I think they were under the accommodation tax one. They're supposed to apply to this one here.
Councilman, do you want to defer to you?
Yes, I'm gonna defer until they can get that situated.
Next, we have the Construction and Maintenance Board of Adjustments and Appeals. There are 2 vacancies on this board. Appointment requirements are we must be an engineer, 1 and a mechanical contractor is the other position. We do not have any applications for that. And Madam Mayor, that appointment falls to you.
And we do not have any new application that fit those bills, correct?
Correct.
So at this time, I will defer.
Next board is the Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee. There are 8 seats to be filled on this board. Members must reside or be employed within the city limits. Membership will consist of the following: a representative from a local energy company, representative from a local university or college, representatives from conservation or environmental organizations, representatives from districts 1, 2, and 3, and a layperson who's a resident of the city. We have 2 applications. Lauren Piner, she meets the qualifications of D and G, which is representative from District 1 and a layperson. We also have Mindy Taylor, who meets the qualifications of being a representative of a local energy company. The first appointment, which is a 1-year term, falls to Mayor Pro Tem Jabala.
I would nominate Mindy Taylor for seat 9,
Have a
which is a
second.
3-year term.
No, you have seat two, 1 year.
Yes.
There's 2, there are 2 coming up for me. And I would like seat 2 and seat 9 are both my nominations, so I'll nominate her for seat 9.
Point of correction, I want to be sure that with appointments, are we going in order? Yeah,
We would normally, I think I'll
let's see.
defer to our city attorney on that.
They don't necessarily have to go in order as long as the seat is one that is in the rotation assigned to a council member. So, for example, someone couldn't say, well, seat 7, which is not one of the seats that I'm assigned to appoint. They couldn't do it that way. But as long as it's one assigned to the council member, for example, he could defer the appointment of seat 1, and then when he gets to seat 9, then he could do it that way. But I don't see any need to necessarily take them in order as long as we don't vary from the assignment of the seats to council members.
Okay, so how we have our seats now with our appointments on our, Jim, please don't leave yet. I just want to make sure we have it clear. So on for our charting for rotation, we have the appointment of usually the council person and then the next person. So I'm hearing that you say that the person who's appointing can take their appointment out of order before the other council members.
No, all they're doing is, for example, what Councilman Javali can do, if he wants to appoint, and I don't even remember the person's name, if he wants to appoint somebody to one of, it's my understanding on the rotation that he has 2 of these seats
I understand you.
that are assigned to him.
So what you want, you only gonna want to appoint to one of your seats at a time and you're swapping.
I
and
mean,
you-
probably the
Assigning her
easiest way to do it
to
would
seat
be
9.
for
You
him
wanna
to
do 9,
simply
okay.
defer
Okay, gotcha. I got
on
it.
seat 1.
Yeah, that's what basically what he's gonna end up doing. He's not gonna appoint seat, his first seat number 2 now. You're simply gonna appoint your seat number 9 now?
Well, there's only 2 applicants,
Right.
and what I'm nominating her is for seat 9, one of the 2 that I have available to.
Right, so
That's
you want to do seat 9 now?
Seat
not-
9, that's
not-
correct.
Okay, all right, I understand you there.
That's right.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay.
So we had, you did a motion, I second on your motion. So are we ready? Restate that since we had it all.
Certainly, that's fine. So I nominate Mindy Taylor for seat 9, which is a 3-year term for the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee.
And I'm gonna second that. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by, I do want to state too, before we proceed, that I did talk to Mandy this past week, and she's looking forward to serving. She actually, prior to this, she actually saw this in the paper and she called in because she's been active with, actually, I see members from climate control, that they've been active with a board here in Florence for several years. So she's very familiar with this and she's already active on this. And I think that she will bring a good foundation to starting this. And I believe, I asked her if she knows others in the areas of specialties that we were looking for. I asked her to please reach out to them and invite others to apply. Because I think that this commission will be important to the city as a whole with our future positioning with the things that's coming down from the federal. And so if you're ready for the question, all those in favor of Ms. Mindy Taylor appointment, please signify by saying aye. Aye, and the like sign.
And-
Let it
I'm sorry, go
reflect, okay, let it reflect that Ms. Mindy Taylor has been appointed to the Resiliency and Sustainability Advisory Committee, and the chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you. So Mindy is someone who's well-known to all of us, or to many of us. She is the current representative for Duke Energy, interacts extensively with the city. She's been worked very closely with me, with the downtown redevelopment and the board of the Downtown Development Corporation for many years. And we are very, very fortunate to have someone of Mindy's caliber and her passion, as well as her knowledge, to work with us. And just like we encourage her to come forward, we have many more seats open than we have applicants. So I would encourage our citizens to continue to please apply so that we can fill the seats on this important committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, we'll proceed with Mr. Davis.
Our next nomination falls to Councilwoman Barnes, seat 3.
And we have, I defer. You said that the members could not only, if they didn't live in the city, they could work in the city.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's specifically for this board because of this, for this particular one, because of the specialties that required.
Finally, we have our Public Safety Citizens Review Board. There's 1 seat to be filled. The appointment requirements, you must be a city resident and at least 21 years of age. We have a number of new applicants: Marsden Alexander, Robbie Epps, Frederick Gotel, Margaret Hawkins, Letitia Jackson, Deborah Montgomery, Michael Tommy Phillips, Ron Roberts, Howard Simons, and Whitey Snowden. And that falls to Madam Mayor.
I will appoint Mr. Howard Simons.
Madam Mayor, can we go back for just a second on the last one for the Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee? Councilman Barrs defers. The next recommendation would go to Councilman McCall, correct?
Yeah. But there's an applicant.
Yes, there is.
And then I'm on that.
Lauren Piner.
Okay, point of order, if it's deferred, and at this time, since the council members did not appoint, Jim, I'll bring that for you. I'll always give a clear legal basis for everything.
There would be no reason why those other seats couldn't be available. I'm sure what Scotty was thinking is there were only 2 applicants. And so he went through 2 seats. Since 1 has been deferred, there would certainly be nothing wrong with going to the next.
What if someone else that was down that line that had the ability wanted to put one of those people in?
No, that's what I'm saying. There would be nothing wrong with it going down the line.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Since you still have 1 applicant who has applied for that committee, there would be nothing wrong with going down that. Continuing to go down. You could do it simply by saying, is there any other council member on these that has a nomination for that particular committee?
So do anyone desire to make an appointment today?
I desire.
We went back to the Residency and Sustainability Advisory Committee.
Because I know I have an appointment there, but I was never asked about it.
Okay, let me just read through. We have, first, it would have been Mayor Pro Tem Jabali, who actually elected to do his appointment for seat 9, Ms. Taylor. So I'm gonna read through the council member names. If there's anyone who do want to appoint, please let me know. First, we had Councilwoman Barnes, who elected to defer. Next, we have Councilman McCall.
Defer.
Then we have myself, Mayor Irvin. I'm going to defer. Next, we have Councilman Schofield.
I would like to recommend Lauren Piner.
Okay, Councilman Schofield has recommended Lauren Piner. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And are in Councilman, that person is eligible for D and for G. Which one are you appointing that person to?
D.
Scotty, let the record reflect that Councilman Schofield is appointing Lauren Piner to D, Representative District 1. And I just want to confirm without question, we said all those in favor, we did signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And like sign. So let the record reflect that Councilman Schofield appointed Ms. Lauren Piner to position recognized as D, a representative from District 1. And so we're in the present portion of now having nominees for Public Safety Citizen Review Board. And Mr. Davis stated that we had several applicants. The appointment at this time is up by Mayor Myers Irving. So at this time, I do want to reiterate that I would like to appoint Mr. Howard Sims. That's my motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Simon, excuse me, Simon, y'all. So it's been properly motioned and second that Mr. Howard Simon be appointed to the Public Safety Review Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that Mr. Howard Simon has been appointed to the Public Safety Citizen Review Board. I'll turn
We do
further
have-
proceeding to Mr. Davis.
We do have one more board, Madam Mayor, the Aesthetics Advisory Committee. There are 4 seats to be filled on this committee. Members must reside or be employed within the city limits. We have 1 applicant, James Hicks. The first appointment falls to Councilwoman Barnes.
And I'd like to appoint James.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been properly motion and second that Mr. Hicks be appointed to our boards. And are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that Mr. Hickson has been appointed.
There are no current, if council have any other members, there are no current other applicants.
Thank you so much for that. At this time, next on our agenda, we have appropriation of accommodation tax funds for the fiscal year of 2021-2022. Do we have a representative from our accommodation tax funding present? Well,
We do, Madam Mayor.
okay, at this time, we will entertain a motion that we can receive information.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motion is second. We can hear from Mr. Joker next.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Just by way of information, especially for the new members of council, this is an annual process which is coming before you for the first time. By state law, all the hotels in South Carolina collect a 2% statewide accommodations tax. That money is received by the state and then returned to each jurisdiction on a quarterly basis. So the city receives quarterly checks from the State Department of Revenue for these funds. By state law, the funds are required to be used for tourism-related purposes. The funds are broken down in primarily 3 different ways, the third of which is state law requires that 65% of these funds be used for tourism-related events primarily. State law also requires that city council appoint a 7-member committee to receive presentations from applicants for these funds. This committee met last month. We should thank them for their service. They served with no pay. They took up the better part of an afternoon to receive presentations from these applicants. And then they deliberated at the end of these presentations and are prepared to make a recommendation to council for how they recommend these funds be awarded. With us this afternoon, we have Chad Patterson, who graciously served again to be chair of this committee. So he's coming before you this afternoon to make the presentation on behalf of the committee. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Patterson.
Members of council, thank you again for allowing me to come up here and share our recommendations for the 65% of the accommodations tax funds received by the state. These funds this year were estimated to be about $622,000. We were able to recommend with 24 organizations and events that came to us this year. We were able to fund about 67% of the $926,900 they requested. And we feel like the 24 organizations that came are going to be fantastic for the community and be able to bring a lot of tourism to the area. So thank you again for the opportunity to serve on this committee. If you have any questions.
Any questions from the council members? If not, thank you so much. And thank you again for all the time that y'all dedicate to looking at these numbers and giving these recommendations to us. And over the years, y'all have done a fine job. So thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, for the record, we do need a motion from council to approve their recommendation.
Okay, so at this time, we had a motion and already a second. Are you ready for the question to approve the appropriation of the accommodation tax fund fiscal years of 2021, 2022 as presented? If you're ready for the question, all those.
Madam Mayor, can I
Yes,
ask a
sir.
question?
Yes, sir.
Do we have to go by the recommendations 100%? Or are we allowed to make motions and changes as we see fit?
If you want to, what is your question? Are you,
Are we allowed to make recommendations to the dollar values?
do you have one you want to make?
No, I'm asking to bring clarification for all of council.
Jim, I'll let you step forward.
Obviously, the committee works very hard and comes forward with a recommendation that they have studied and tried to do as best they can. Council does have the authority to make suggested changes as long as it stays within the state requirements of the tourism activities. But council can amend the recommendation. It comes to council as a recommendation.
And foreseeing, so you also want to know what, when we receive our packages and we receive the numbers, that if there's ever any questions about the numbers or allocation, you can actually reach out prior to this to question any numbers. So you have the authority. So at this time, do you have anything?
Madam Mayor, I move that we defer this and to give us more time to review the numbers.
We have an amendment to defer. Do we have a second for that amendment? Not receiving us.
I'll second
Okay, we have, so what we're voting now is an amendment to defer the approval of the accommodation tax fiscal year 2021, 2022. All those in favor of the amendments? We can have, yes, we can have discussion, yes.
I would like to understand the timing of making a motion to defer. I'm not sure I understand that.
More as, I just don't feel like I've had enough time to make a decision as myself on the knowledge that's here in front of us.
Okay. Just get historically, and of course, that's not binding on any future council or any decisions by council. But historically, great deference is generally given to the committee. They work really hard and they hear presentations from each one of the applicants. And so they get to hear the full value of the requests. And as council, while we do have the authority to make those changes, historically, we have just had a lot of confidence in the committee, and we have historically approved unless there's been some major question of some sort. But the allocations are, from what I see, are generally you have an applicant, and if you look back at the amount that was given previously, there's some correlation over time as a number of these applicants are repeat applicants over time that you all committee was engaged in. So I personally, I would like to see us go ahead and approve this now.
We can do that.
Pardon?
We can do that if you want.
Yeah, I would prefer that see us go ahead and approve this now, and then maybe in the future, I would certainly encourage a councilman to speak with Mr. Patterson or anybody else about the applicant process as it comes along, because it's a months-long process that they engage in.
Duly noted.
Is there any discussion?
I want, yeah, I would
Chair
just,
recognizes Councilman McCall.
yeah, I second, I just want to give you this to kind of, I know where you're going with that, so, okay. We got, is everything clear now? So I'm in favor of approving it as is, because I trust the difference of the to the board and whatever recommendation that you all do have. I just wanted, I know you had a motion. I didn't want to leave it out there dry, because I wanted to kind of get the discussion out there.
I would ask if you would like to withdraw your motion.
Well, being the chair, being the chairwoman, that comes back here with- to a point of clarification. We do have a motion and a second on the amendment to the prior motion. So at this time, Councilman Schofield, do you wish to withdraw your?
Withdraw my motion.
Okay, the motion has been withdrawn. We're back to our original motion, which is approval for the appropriation of accommodation tax funds fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Like sign, same. Let it reflect that the appropriation of the accommodation tax fund for fiscal year 2021-2022 has been approved. Next, we have committee report. First, we will have our report from the chair from the Business Development Committee.
Thank you. On September the 17th, the committee met, and the members of the committee are myself, Councilwoman Barnes and Councilman Schofield. We met along with Michael Hemingway, Kevin Yocum, Clint Moore, and we had a very involved conversation about the business development city. The first element that was discussed is there is an inventory going on currently, an update on property inventory in the city. Our current GIS position is vacant, and so that's making it difficult for us to get that work done that we're trying to do. It's my understanding that the vacancy hopefully will be filled in November, and we would be able to provide a final report to us come hopefully March of next year. So we're looking forward to getting that at that time. We also looked at new businesses that are interested in downtown. We got an update on what's happening in downtown as well as the whole city. And several properties in downtown, we got an update on what's happening with those. There's an RFP that's going forward on one of the current buildings that the city owns, and we're excited about that to see what happens with that property on the 100 block of Evans Street. Then with regard to other parts of the community, there were updates given on the Winn-Dixie property. It's as very well as various other ones. We were informed about the Horton new residential development that we talked about today. We were given an update on that potential. And so a lot of those aspects that came along. We also heard a report from Michael Hemingway on industrial information on what's happening. So it was very good update. No actions were taken on any of that, but it was an update. We then specifically looked at the corridors, the Highway 52 corridor, as well as other corridors, and we were informed that these corridor work is going to be a part of the comprehensive plan that is currently, staff is currently working on with Kingdon Keast. So we're very excited to see how that develops over time and the information as it's going to come forward in the comprehensive plan. But we identified several corridors: the East Palmetto corridor from Francis Marion all the way into the city, Highway 52 corridor on Lucas Street, the South Irby Street corridor, and the West Palmetto Street corridor beginning at Park Avenue, heading into town as a part of the TIF district. So those specific areas of those corridors are ones that we are looking to get included in the comprehensive plan so that we'll be able to take action on those as we go forward. We also looked at along Cherokee, the opportunity perhaps to get banners hung to identify the downtown district, which is on Irby Street at Cherokee all the way to Lucas Street, and perhaps maybe getting with Duke Energy to allow us to put banners up on their phone poles. And so I think that is something that staff is going to be looking into to see what the possibilities are for that. And then we were also informed about the widening of the road on Third Loop that they're looking, the county sales, the county penny money, where it's our understanding that third loop is going to be widened at some point. Is there anything further from Councilman Schofield or Councilman Barnes? Okay,
Does that conclude your
that's,
chairman?
that is
report?
our report.
Okay, next we have is a report from the chairperson from the Community Development Committee.
Okay, our committee, we had a trip to Greenville. We went and we met with the Homes of Hope on Friday. The committee, Pat Gibson, High Moore, and Quez McCall, councilwoman and man, to find out and research about their doings there. They have a wonderful, wonderful project going on, and we wanted to see what they're doing so that we can emulate what they've been doing, or see if we would like to. We also are looking at the downtown revitalization, the downtown corp, I'm sorry. There's so that we could, and the one that was in place that was, I think the mayor chaired that one, the bylaws. So we are looking at developing our bylaws for this CDC. We are also, as a committee, still continuing our listening tour. On Thursday at 6 o'clock here in the chambers, we will be hosting a conversation with our faith-based community leaders. We're asking them to come with their minds and hearts ready to discuss ways that they can partner with us, partner with the city, for us to make our communities a much better place. Is there anything else? I think that's pretty much it. I'm not as detailed as George. George has everything, but that's pretty much it. Please come out this Thursday, 6 o'clock here in Chambers.
Thank you, Chairwoman, for that report. Next, we will have a report from the chairperson from the Marketing and Public Relationship Committee.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. We met on September 28th here in on the 4th floor in the pecan room to discuss. I guess after the last meeting, we all talked about the vaccination campaign and trying to, with the goal in mind of trying to get to 70% vaccination rate, at least by November meeting, but continue to move forward. We would like to have that, the city promoting vaccinations. And at that meeting, Amanda, and Hannah presented a communications plan regarding vaccination. And the purpose is to increase the awareness and promote COVID vaccinations among city employees, the Florence community and surrounding areas in an effort to ensure the wellness of our residents. The audience will be city employees, of course, their families, the residents of Florence and surrounding areas. In addition, we've already got support from McLeod, MUSC, and Hope Health to encourage their employees and to also partner with us and letting the residents to understand the importance of getting vaccinated and to ensure the wellness and safety of our citizens. And she got, they've created different ways of which we'll be reaching out to these different constituents internally through email, employee email blast, flyers on the payroll flyer, the employee wellness Facebook page, and testimonial videos from directors, nurse practitioner, employees. I think a couple of council members have already given made some videos. I think mine's aired today. Yeah, and we all just took the picture with the Vaccinate Florence. Can you hold it up for us, Amanda, so we can show it? Yeah, there we go. We're taking, yeah, there we go. We're going to Vaccinate Florence. So yeah, we've already taken the picture today to kind of indicate our willingness to all try to get our rates up. So again, that's all we on the September 28th, 2021 meeting. That was the general frame of our discussion. We're presenting that communications plan of how we're going to market this vaccination campaign across the city. And I think that was about it. George or Brian, anything I need to add?
Thank you, Chairperson, for that report. At this time, we'll get ready to enter to our executive session. And before we entertain a moment, I'll read out the items that will be entertained in the executive session. Those items will be to receive legal advice related to open carry 30-4-70 A2, and B item to receive legal advice related to a request by the city town of Pamlico 30-4-70 A2. Do we have a motion to go into executive session? It's been motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And the 5-minute recess.
And we're going into executive session. Right. Our agenda. Item on our agenda is in reference to, we're receiving some legal advice in reference to the open carry. And at this time, I am going to ask that our attorney approach the podium for any questions. And we will look back to the bill that was up was bill number 2021-36, 20-2136, first reading, an ordinance to utilize authority found in code 23-31-220 and 23-31-520 of the South Carolina Codes of Laws to amend to prohibit open carry of firearms at all events permitted by the city of Florence, and to expand the current prohibition of concealable weapons on the properties owned and operated by the city of Florence to include both concealed and open carry of concealable weapons by amending sections number 14-20, section 19-52, 19-53, 19-54, and 19-57, and by adding articles number 5 to chapter 2 of the City of Codes of Ordinance. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion in a second. We can have discussion at this time.
Madam Mayor, it's my understanding that the basis for this is in a response to the legislature allowing open carry. And we all know that November 6th, we're going to have a Pecan Festival here. We're going to have 50,000 people, hopefully, in downtown once again. And the statute, as I understand it, and I'll call on Jim to give us more clarity on these points. But the statute currently, the state statute allows cities to carve out exceptions to open carry for events, permitted events, like the Pecan Festival, like Florence After 5, those types of things where you can have so many people on top of each other, safety being a primary concern. The legislature, when they did pass that law, that did not affect concealed carry, just open carry. And so we want to address that similarly so that we are making the changes necessary. And Jim, I'm going to let you go into how some of our current existing ordinances are going to need to get amended to accomplish some of these goals. That in order to achieve one thing, you got to go back and change 4 other things.
Yes, that's correct, Councilman. What we have with the new statute is that cities and counties are allowed to basically do 2 things. First of all, they can limit both concealed and open carry of concealable weapons. That's a term used in the statute. In our buildings, while our machinery and equipment is being operated. So that's one thing that applies, for example, to this building. For many years, since this building's been here as the city, we have, like many businesses do, a sign on the front door that says concealed weapons not allowed. What would happen is this ordinance is designed to make it to where not only are concealed weapons not allowed here, but also open carry of concealable weapons is not allowed in our buildings where we are operating. The second area is the one you referenced and is one of the main purposes of this. And that is the statute specifically allows cities and counties to limit open carry of firearms at events permitted by the city. So we have all of these ordinances that as we try to accomplish what the state legislature allowed, then we have to change a number of our ordinances throughout our code. And as we discussed with the legal advice, that's the purpose of this. One thing that has come up from questions of me as we were in executive session discussing that, and you all asking me questions about the legal ramifications of some of the language in these ordinances, is that there are two sections that I think the way they are currently worded in this ordinance before you have unintended consequences. And these have nothing to do with events. The events part of this ordinance, as we discussed, it's all it's doing. It doesn't limit the carry of concealed weapons by a properly permitted individual in South Carolina at our events. That's allowed by the statute. We're not trying to limit in any way a properly permitted person from carrying concealed weapons at our events. What it does is it prohibits the open carry of firearms at our permitted events. The part of this where we ran into the unintended consequences was the language trying to incorporate a prohibition of both concealed and open carry of weapons in our buildings and properties being operated by the city. As a result of that, I have put together some language that basically changes subparagraphs A to both sections 2-300 and section 14-20 on the ordinances before you to make it clear that the prohibition of concealed weapons only applies in buildings or on machinery, in vehicles, or on equipment owned by the city, owned and operated by the city. In addition, those paragraphs will now include language that prohibits the open carry of concealable weapons on all properties owned and operated by the city, with the exception of streets, roads, and public rights of way. And the intent of that amendment to the language is to make it clear that we're not prohibiting concealed carry of weapons by properly permitted individuals anywhere except in our buildings, on our equipment, machinery, and vehicles. So that's the basis of the ordinance before us. Of course, the main intention is taking care of open carry at our permitted events. The secondary thing is taking care of making it clear that if you come into City Hall in the city center here, that you can't carry either concealed, which we already have, or open carry of concealable weapons coming into buildings and places where we're operating.
In following up on that, I move to amend the ordinance that's before us to conform with the information that was presented by our city attorney, that we amend paragraph A of section 2-300 and paragraph A of section 14-20 to make it clear that the prohibition of concealed weapons only in buildings, machinery, and vehicles and equipment owned and operated by the city. And that in addition, the open carry of concealable weapons will be prohibited in all properties owned and operated by the city, with the exception of streets, roads, and public rights of way. And I make this motion as our city attorney had identified for us to eliminate the unintended consequences of this language as it currently exists in the ordinance that's before us.
Do we have
A second.
so we have seconds to the amendment. So you have heard the amendment as read, and we have a proper motion and second. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, like sign. Now we have our amendment to go proceed to fund. So we need to vote on that, Jim, to give you confirmation, correct? So now we're gonna go through a motion again for our amendment.
Well, you don't need a motion.
We can just vote it on through.
You're now voting on the ordinance as amended.
All right.
One-
So
one
Go ahead.
point. It's my understanding that we will be seeing at our called meeting, that there will be a
well,
called
I'll
meeting.
reiterate that when we get to that point.
Okay.
So we have our amendment on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Uh,
And like sign. So let it be reflected that the amendment has passed. And this will require 2 readings. So today, this is the first of 2 readings. The city council will be planning to have a special meeting. At this time, we will be tentatively looking at the date of November the 1st of doing this special meeting. And if there's anyone that's so interested in a statement, you're welcome to contact the city in reference to that. So now that we have voted and approved that amendment, we can move forward to our next item on our agenda.
Madam Mayor, one
Sure.
it's my understanding that when we have our special called meeting, that the formal language of the amendment will be presented to us at that time for the word by word review of it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's-
The amendment language that was done today expresses what the language will do. But the exact language, we will go ahead and make that amendment. It'll be highlighted and it'll be sent out to everyone so you can see the exact language accomplishing the goal of that amendment.
Thank you.
And that is one of the reasons why you're gonna have to have a second reading period anytime you're having something like this. And so in the meantime, just as was stated, the clear language will be presented out and the final piece of legislation will be brought out. So sent to us, so I have time to review it. And when you review it ahead of time, if you have any questions, you're welcome to call, speak with our city manager, our city attorney to get clarification. But that language should be just as we heard just there, just with some clear writing of it. Next, we have on to our executive session items that were discussed, but no action taken, was to receive legal advice in reference to a request by the town of Pamplico. To actually, that request, as read out earlier, was resolution number 2021-35, a resolution expressing council's willingness to grant a request by the town of Pamplico to release a portion of the city's designated water and sewage service area to allow Pamplico to serve the residents of its area. And just so we know, this resolution is simply taking property in that Pamplico area, and we're returning that property over to the county. We received that property from the county. So now, if it's the will of this council, we will give it back to the county. And at which time the county can therefore communicate and return that property over to Pamplico, if that's the will, if that's the will. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any like signs? Let it reflect that resolution number 2021-35 has passed. If that completes our agenda, we entertain a motion to adjourn. His motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.